Bringing Rodney Harrison, Football Night in America. He's out in Denver for that game. Rodney, you've stared down Peyton Manning before in games. What's it like to listen to him at the line of scrimmage?
Well, I think the key with Peyton Manning is he's got so many different checks and calls and so many different antics. The most important thing that you have to do as a defender is not pay attention to what Peyton Manning is doing, because you can get so caught up in trying to figure out his calls, which you'll never be able to figure out. You'll never really be able to get any strong keys on Peyton. So you have to really do a good job of trying to disguise the coverage, trying to move around. And that's where we've always had success against Peyton Manning, moving around, trying to confuse him, beating up the receivers, and putting pressure on Peyton. Because if you can confuse Peyton a little bit, it's not like he's a great quarterback, but he will make mistakes. And we had a lot of success against Peyton, trying to confuse him, beating up the receivers.
Do you think younger players, younger defensive backs, try to figure him out?
I think younger players get caught up in all the antics and the amazement in which Peyton Manning does things. It's so many different things going on, hand signals. He's barking, yelling across the line. He sees everything. But I think, young players of this generation, they don't really do a great job of disguising. I think they're so focused on their man and their responsibility, they don't disguise. And I think that's such an important element when you're facing Peyton Manning, because if you come up and you show him a cover two, if he knows that you're in cover two, you have no chance against him, because he's going to pick you apart. He knows all the holes in the defense. He knows exactly where his receiver's going to be.
Is he a talker? I mean, after a big play, will he run down the field yapping at you?
No, he's not one of those guys. He's actually more excited. And if the play works, and even if it's not perfect, you'll hear him say, "God dang it, I should have." He'll go up to his receiver and say, "Good catch, but this is the correction. You ran the route at 14 instead of 15." I mean, he's a perfectionist, and he's one of those guys that if he ever decided to coach, he'll be a fantastic coach, because he wants everything to go a particular way.
He's Rodney Harrison, Football Night in America, also hosts a show on NBC Sports Radio on the weekends. Rodney, Mike Florio suggested recently that the Bills pick up Tim Tebow, if for no other reason that he might help the Buffalo with their game plan in Week 1 against New England. Darrelle Revis recently said he's happily sharing the Jets' secrets with the Bucs in advance of that Week 1 matchup. Is there a real advantage to having that kind of insider on the team, or is this just something we in the media like to talk about?
I think it is to a certain degree. At the end of the day, I mean, you can know a player's or a team's tendencies, but you still have to go out there and stop. And I think Buffalo right now at this point, they're adjusting. They have a rookie quarterback who they're very excited about, but this is it's completely different for a rookie quarterback in the preseason as opposed to the regular season, because everything counts. The real bullets are flying, and he's got to make a lot of decisions, and he has to be accountable for his actions out on the field. So, I mean, it's easy, and Belichick used to use that practice, bringing guys in that got cut from the Jets and other teams to try to find out information. A lot of teams are doing it, but it helps to a certain degree, but the players still have to go out there and make plays.
Has there been a guy that's been brought into a team you've been on that's brought value in that way, has given you insight that's been helpful for you in a game?
No, not at
Never.
all. No, I don't pay attention to that, because I know offenses, especially in NFL, they have such flexibility that a guy can tell you something and they can run the same play out of 10 different formations. So if you get caught up in that, now you're trying to be too much of a student of the game. I think the game is, yes, you want to find tendencies, but at the same time, you want to be able to trust and use your instincts. If you can use your instincts, now you can be more reactionary and you can play a little freer and a little looser. But if you get caught up in trying to read and study everything, you become a robot out there.
He's Rodney Harrison, Football Night in America, also hosts the show on NBC Sports Radio. Baltimore lost a lot of guys this offseason, Rodney. Can they repeat as champions?
Can they? They can, but I don't think they will. I just think at this point in time it's so difficult to repeat, because we were the last team to repeat, and just to keep that focus, keep that level of intensity throughout the season. You're a target. Everyone's targeting you. You have to be able to bring an emotional level each and every week. I think it's very tough to do. You have to be able to have a mature group of guys that understand the importance of consistency, not taking things for granted. I think this is a really good team, but I don't think this is the best team in the league. I think, maybe possibly a team from the NFC from the NFC side will win the Super Bowl.
Is there one team out there that you identify that is at least a head above everybody else as the best team in the league?
No, I don't think it's just one team. I think it's maybe a few teams. I think Seattle with the quarterback and that defense. I think San Francisco. I think even a team like the Denver Broncos. I think they have to be the favorite in the AFC. I wouldn't overlook a team like Seattle. Cincinnati, as well as Houston. I think Houston is a team that's right there on the verge of being really good. And I think Atlanta, you can group the Atlanta Falcons. I think what they've done as far as that offense, rebuilding that defense, getting some youth back there, getting healthy back there, I think those are the teams that you have to look at. It's about 5 or 6 teams clustered right there at the top, and it'll be interesting to see who breaks away from that.
Ray Lewis left a pretty big void in the locker room in terms of leadership, but when you look at the losses the Ravens incurred in the offseason, which position, which player do you think they'll feel the most on the field?
I think you talk about Ray Lewis and that leadership and that emotion. Ed Reed, his presence, the interceptions. Ed Reed, obviously, he's lost a step or half a step of whatever you want to say, and that's natural. But I think when you start looking at the different levels on that team, you look at the free safety spot, the defensive back spot, the leadership that Ed Reed brought, the consistency in which he played, Ray Lewis. But the one thing I believe this team is a more athletic team. I think this is a faster defense now. And I think they're excited because when you have a leader, an outspoken leader like Ray Lewis, a lot of times you as a player, you shy away from trying to become a leader because you have such an outspoken guy. But now that Ray Lewis is gone, this has given them an opportunity for other guys like a Ladarius Webb, like a Darryl Smith, to come in and be, whether you're a quiet leader or an outspoken guy like Terrell Suggs. So a lot of times when you have a guy that's there that's always talking, you shy away from being that leader. But I think now this is a team that's going to have leadership by committee, and they're really excited. I think this is a faster, more athletic team, and don't be surprised what happens tonight.
Who's your favorite defensive player to watch?
Who's my favorite defensive player to watch? Wow. I've always loved Troy Polamalu. I've always marveled at just the way he plays, reckless abandon. I know he's a little older now and he's been injured, but I really get excited. I like Darrelle Revis. I've always been excited about him, just the professionalism, the technique that he brings, the intensity, the focus on each and every play. So more defensive backs than anything, but if I have to say a pass rusher, I'm really excited about J.J. Watt. He is just exciting to me. He's fun. He likes the intensity. He loves to compete. So those are the guys that I really like.
If you're a coach and you could pick from one player at their peak, would it be Darrelle Revis or Troy Polamalu?
I would have to, as Troy is like my favorite player, but I would have to pick the shutdown cornerback because Darrelle Revis, he's proven in the past that he can shut down anyone when he's healthy, when he's at his peak. I don't think you can. The numbers are what they are, and maybe he won't get a lot of interceptions, but to be able to put a cornerback on the best player and say you shut him down, you can play the slot, you can play out wide, you can play zone, you can do whatever you want to do, but you can shut down that one guy. And we've seen it year after year with Darrelle Revis. I would have to take Darrelle Revis because it's rare to find a shutdown corner who's one of the best.
You ever flop to stop the clock?
Excuse me?
You ever flop on the field to fake an injury to stop the clock?
Are you crazy, Chris? I don't get down like that, man. Real players, we don't get down like that. If you're hurt, you run off the field and you do what you have to do. But all that flopping and stuff like that, that's just not part of the game. That's something that we don't even think about. It's something that never even enters in our mind.
Would you do it if you were told to?
No.
Have you heard what Brian Urlacher said?
What would he say? What did he say?
Play that sound for him, Seton. Listen, this is what Brian Urlacher said yesterday.
We used to have a thing, our coach would go like this, take a dive on the sideline. When we get a long drive or early in the season, you get tired. Those guys, 80 plays a game, you get beat out there. So our coach says, we had a guy who was a designated dive guy. So when coach did that, he'd get hurt.
A specific player would do, coach would tell you that?
A designated guy that when coach, I'm not going to name the coach, would do this, he would, the guy would fake an injury.
Your reaction?
Well, teams got to do whatever they have to do to gain an advantage. But I tell you this, Chris, I've never been in a situation where a coach told us to take a dive or anything like that. You use your timeouts, you run off the side of the field. If you're legitimately hurt, you stay down. But I've never been on a team, and I've been on some great defenses. I've been on number one defense of 2 or 3 times in my career, and we've never had a situation like that.
You surprised that a player from a great defense like Chicago would have something like that in the system?
No, not at all. I think it's a common practice across the league. I think coaches will do anything to slow down the offense. And even, one of our guys, Willie McGinnis, was accused of doing that against Peyton Manning when we played them on the road in Indianapolis. The fans thought that he took a dive, but he was legitimately hurt, as far as I know. So it doesn't surprise me. I think it's a common practice. I think teams and defenses are trying to get the edge any way they can, and that's just part of the practices.
Before we let you go, do you have an update for us on Dan Patrick?
Well, Dan Patrick's he's living a good life. Last night we ate at some restaurant called the Oceaneer. He had steak, lobster, nice wine, expensive wine. Flew in on a private jet. So trust me, don't feel sorry for Dan. I don't know if it's work or I don't know if it's play, but he's living a good life. So you might have to ask for a raise or a bump in salary right now because he is living good right now.
How's his hair looking?
How is his hair looking?
That's top priority for Dan.
You know what? I really didn't pay attention to his hair. I didn't pay attention to his hair.
Are you intimidated by his hair?
I can't be intimidated by a guy. I'll kick his butt. I'll kick Dan's butt. Dan is a tall, skinny dude. He can beat me in basketball, but he can't beat me in anything else.
Good to talk to you, Rodney.
Thanks, Chris. Take care, bud.
That's Rodney Harrison, Football Night in America, also hosts a show on NBC Sports Radio on the weekends.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.